How's it going, everybody? This is Land Life, episode 27. Today is a rain day. It's a day that we get to chill out and kind of regroup and do invoices. And we got rain here in central Illinois, and you hear a little bit of beeping in the background. Today is Talk to a Farmer. One of my best friends, Royce Corbin. I put him on the spot. I got him on the phone right now, and we're going to talk to him. He's in a tractor right now. What are you planting? Soybeans?
We're planting beans today.
And you said it's marginal out there.
Very marginal. We were one of the lucky ones and got minimal rain yesterday. A lot of people got smacked in the face.
And you're, if people don't know, you're in Northern Illinois, right?
I'm sorry.
Would you say Northern Illinois, that you're in Northern Illinois?
We're considered Northern. Yeah, we're an hour west of Chicago.
Okay. And today is beans. You're running a little bit sloppy. I think that this is a dynamic that people would love to hear more about. I don't know, ask a farmer, right? Because I get to ask you all the time. Sometimes you say, I don't really know about that. And sometimes we get to have
a lot.
We get to have really good discussions. What I think out of all the conversations that I had in the last week with clients and people going to plant corn for deer. So I would like to talk to a farmer about deer corn. Is that okay?
That is just fine.
So here I'm going to start it off with anybody wanting to plant corn for deer. We're going to try to tell you right now a farmer's view and then a food plotter land management's view. And what I've learned over the last, because I'm still a work in progress. And Royce, you would probably say you're a work in progress too, even though you do it for a living. They're always coming out with, new type corn. We've discussed, how you pick a bag of Roundup ready corn, and there's a maturity. Let me get this right. How do we know as deer hunters what kind of corn we should be planting? Would you say? Like,
elaborate on that a little bit more. Like,
okay. So
for maturity, are you talking?
Well, I think that maturity would be one that people would go, I didn't know that there was a difference, right? So if you thought about corn for deer, you would think of, well, let's start simple 101. Where would you get a bag of corn for deer, planting for deer on your farm? Would you get it the same place that a farmer would get it?
You don't have to. You could go to like a Rural King and buy cheap stuff.
Really?
Yeah, it's brown bag stuff at Rural King. It's leftover stuff, and that'd be good enough for deer, you know.
But you're not talking about the same stuff that you would feed deer at a corn pile, right? Like
it'd be the same. No, what you're buying at the store is seed corn, and that's different than what you would buy for a feed pile.
Okay, so that's a big one. That's 101. So everybody you're listening out there, don't just think that the deer corn or the pig corn or like the feed corn that you would feed cows or pigs or your deer, that you can just plant that. Don't do that. You are wanting to buy the classification, Royce. Would you just call that seed corn then?
Yes, you want to buy seed corn. Absolutely.
Okay.
Corn is a hybrid. And its offspring, you have to have special seed corn. You can't just buy feed corn or you will end up with basically nothing.
Right. And so a hybrid, meaning it had a female plant and a male plant, and these people that are way smarter than us that are your seed dealers, yep. Their living is making seed corn and making seeds and doing it correctly with the right maturity level, which is kind of the second thing. But the first thing is buy a quality seed corn, and that is not feed corn, not to be confused, correct?
Correct. Buy a quality seed corn. But for just deer, you also don't have to go spend $400 a bag like what we are spending as farmers. You can spend $150 at Rural King and get away with that.
Okay. And now when you buy seed corn, you're buying and looking at the first thing that you look at. Do you look at, as a farmer, do you look at, a certain a certain maturity rate? Like right now, you have your corn in early this year, early May in northern Illinois, and you're looking at a maturity rate. That means that the corn is dried down. Can you tell us about maturity rate in corn?
Maturity, relative maturity. Corn
Okay.
is different than beans in the fact that it's given a relative maturity. It takes X amount of growing units to mature, which is based on heat units from the sun. Soybeans, that's based on the length of days, how long they'll mature. They have a maturity on them, but it's based on length of day. Corn is going to take X amount of time no matter what. And so when I'm selecting hybrids, I have like what I would consider an early one, a medium one, and then a later one. And then I select hybrids based on those maturities.
And yeah, when we pick up, so in fact, when I go pick up corn, I either will buy it from like Walter's Ag, which is an ag place out in the country in Farmington, Illinois. They will have corn for me, and I'll call them up and I'll say, "Hey, I want 100-day or what, like 105 or 110-day corn." Is that pretty
Correct.
average?
Correct. Yep. Most corn, well, depends on where you're at and what part of the country.
Well, let's talk about me right here, Central Illinois. If I'm going to plant deer corn, last year I planted as late as July 4th with a really long maturity, and we know now that I can't ever do that again because I won't have any corn for the deer. But I'm the extreme trying to,
test the extremes. I'm not going to say I told you so, but that was an experiment.
Well, the raccoons really loved it though. The raccoons ate 3 or 4 or 5 acres of corn or whatever it was. And I planted it late, and it was the only thing that was like sweet and full of moisture growing while all the other corn was drying down. And the raccoons absolutely devastated, like let's say average of 4 acres of corn. The deer didn't even get a chance to eat it. But so that was 100, wasn't that like 115-day? And it was just too long.
Which is a very, very mature corn. I think 117 or 18 days, like the latest you can buy. So that's a very full season. And those you want to get in the ground absolutely first, unless you're in southern, south part of America.
Right. And so if like this year, when I call, I'm probably just going to call like Sun Ag or somewhere over here on this side of the river. And I'll buy, since I'm planting corn on corn, I plant corn in the same spots every year. Just because that is the way my farm's set up. One day I hope to be able to plant something else. But right now I'm planting corn on corn, and I will call Mr. Bayer up at Sun Ag, and I will say, I want 100 to 105-day corn probably this year.
That would be plenty early. You're not that late yet. The one advantage you have as a deer guy over a farmer, farmers need ours to mature and dry down for storage.
Okay.
You're either going to dry it down with your own dryer or you're going to pay for commercial drying. So you need it to mature and dry down. You're leaving it in the field all winter long, so it doesn't matter if it dries down for you. As long as it reaches maturity, black layer, you're good. So you, as a deer guy, you can get away with a little bit later than what we can.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. So the first thing I think a person that's hearing this that wants to plant corn for deer, I think these are the necessities they need to know. One, buy a quality, fresh seed corn. And then the next thing is to look at the maturity. If you're further south, you're going to have a lot heat units and a lot longer time before it frosts, because frosting is the only thing that affects the black layer of corn, which is the part that stores all the nutrients and adds this layer on it, right? That keeps that protein in there.
Correct. Black layer is when it reaches what's called maturity. And I can't remember if that's either like 35 or 38% moisture, somewhere right in there is what's considered that. At that point, it can frost, the plant can die, and you don't lose yield. If it frosts and kills the plant prematurely, then you lose a lot of the nutrient value, you lose kernel size, you lose a lot of, that's a bad thing.
Okay. And so first they're going to ask for seed corn. Second, they're going to be a maturity. We can clearly recommend that if you're around that 100 to 105 to even 90 something day, you're going to be just fine for deer corn. I think clearly across the board, right?
Yeah, it's getting later-ish, but it's not too late yet. So if you're in that 105 to even as late as 110, you can get away with that. But the later we get, start dropping your maturities down.
And then the second, and then like the third part about that, I think like I had conversations with food plot, not novices. They've planted food plots, but they're just now kind of maturing to, hey, I want to plant some corn food plots, and they really don't know what they're doing. And so every time I hear somebody talk about, well, I want to go ahead and plant corn for a food plot, I ask them one question. I ask them, hey, are you putting nitrogen down? And most of them said, well, I fertilized last year. Um, what can you say about that, even in teaching me? For me, I know that if I put 5 bags of 4600 nitrogen in a field that I can't have an applicator service like Walter's Ag or some chemical spraying liquid nitrogen on the ground, I have to resort to tilling the ground or disking the ground and disking in the fertilizer, which is 4600, which is urea nitrogen, and making sure that I have the lime because I live in Illinois. I've got good pH, but to utilize the nitrogen to make, what does that do? Just makes the ear and makes it as big as possible and makes it worth it.
And the plant too. Absolutely, the plant. Corn is a grass, and grass needs nitrogen. The very, very first rule of planting corn is nitrogen. If you don't have nitrogen, you won't have corn. That is the number one rule.
I mean,
corn loves nitrogen.
That's the first thing that I've learned from you farmers is that every time I went to go plant corn, I'm like, it should be good enough. I can grow brassicas, I can grow beans, I can grow sorghum, I can grow all this stuff without having to do much to my soil. And then all of a sudden I got ready to plant corn and I went, hey, I'm just going to put some corn in the ground. And every farmer I know, including you, was like, no, you have to put nitrogen on. And I didn't know what that meant. So the reason I wanted to do this Ask a Farmer corn podcast and corn for deer is I wanted to say, hey, we need to make sure that either you're applying some type of liquid nitrogen fertilizer to the ground that you're planting the corn in, or you're finding a pelletized 4600 straight urea nitrogen. But with that, you have to work it into the soil with a tiller or a disc to make sure it doesn't evaporate, correct?
Correct. It will volatilize if you don't have it worked in, especially on a hot day. It will volatilize and you will lose it if you don't get it worked in or get a rain on it or something like that. That is the one problem with urea. It will disappear on you if you do not applicate it.
Now, how does it evaporate? How do you know much about that you can tell us?
That is beyond my level.
Okay.
All I can tell you is it happens.
All right, we'll put it on our list to ask one of the chemical guys if we ever have them on. But I mean, from what we know is like, do you think it's 24 hours? Like, let's say I'm going to go plant my 3 acres of corn this year. That's one bag. That's one bag of 250 to 300. You're pretty much figuring to buy good, fresh this year deer corn. That's around 100-day maturity. You're probably going to spend 300 to 325 for a bag that will plant 3 acres, correct? Wouldn't that be a good guess?
Correct. That's most varieties are in that 3 to 350 range for the better stuff. Like I say, you can get away with the cheaper Rural King stuff for deer corn, but if you want the best, it's kind of like you get what you pay for.
Yeah, if you're planting corn, you might as well, number one, get fresh. Don't plant some farmers last year stuff that they're giving away. I mean, you're putting all the money into nitrogen, all your blood and sweat equity into turning that dirt and your tractor and your diesel, whatever. Don't skimp, when you're spending $110 for seed an acre. And you have you I think the freshness in the seed, I mean, along with the white gold clover and all of the other seed, to me, that's number one is the freshness. So if I'm going to recommend anything, I'm going to recommend somebody to call a seed company, your local seed company, or are there places online that somebody could get fresh seed that they could, if somebody's in the middle of Pennsylvania or in the middle of Nebraska or somewhere and they want to try, Where would they get their corn? Do we even know? Since we're
I
so
don't know, but
spoiled.
shoot, you can order everything online. I mean, I don't care what it is. You can order it and have it to your door the next day. So I'm sure you can find decent corn
What are
online.
you planting this year? Are you planting like a Bex, or like what kind of, I mean, what kind of brand guy are you? You drive dad's trucks, you got a couple different color tractors. What kind of corn are you
Yeah, we
planting
kind of
this
plant a
year?
little bit of everything. As far as seed goes, I've got some Pioneer.
Okay.
I plant some Whiffles, and then I also plant a smaller company out of Wisconsin called Rank.
Oh,
So
cool.
there's a little bit of everything, yeah.
And
a lot of that is dealer network. You know, I think most of the corn out there is good anymore. Find a dealer that you like and will support you and knows your ground. And that's the best. It's like with anything, buying a truck or a four-wheeler or whatever. Find a network that supports you. Dealer network is the most important thing. It's the same thing with seed.
yeah, I mean, we used to buy trucks because we were brand loyal to a truck, and now we're dealer loyal to a truck, and it's like whoever's going to take care of us. So I think if you're driving around, or if you got to drive an hour somewhere or whatever, that you know of a farmer or somebody that's selling seed, to just go, I want some fresh seed from this year. I don't need a long maturity. I just need a middle of the road. I need a good Roundup ready corn. Is there such thing as organic corn, or do they just specifically ask for 100-day maturity, that's Roundup ready corn? Is that what they would say to the person listening that's never tried corn?
Yeah, there is. Just say I need something Roundup ready, but you also want some protection besides that.
Okay.
Because we had basically no winter. It's going to be a really bad bug year.
Okay.
Meaning we have rootworm issues up here. Little worms that first they eat the roots off, and then they turn into little bugs, and then they eat the silk off.
Okay.
So you want underground protection as well.
And that's where your extra protection is in your money. That's why you're buying $400 bags of corn to plant 3 acres, or even $450. But all the time and work and effort, you're feeding your family on this type. It's hard enough to make $1 farming now, but I mean, if we're doing it with deer, you and I both spend our money on our deer, and so you might as well get the extra protections. What are those when they ask for them? Rootworm protection? Or
rootworm protection, correct. And there's also different levels of that. You can do like what's called a VT double pro. That's like a 2 modes of action for those, or you can do smart stack where there's like 3 modes of action. And I'm planting all smart stacks. It costs more, but there's more modes of protection.
And that's the example of the triple stack that I'm using, right?
Correct.
So when I would call my place, everybody that's listening, when I call Mr. Bear up at Sun Ag over here in Tazewell County, I'll say I need a triple stack because I'm going corn on corn, and the corn on corn, that's just where the rootworms could come in, right? But when you're using the protection stuff, you're not going to have that problem. You're going to go ahead and pay for the quality seed that's got the triple stack action against the pests, the worms and such eating the silks. Are there earworms and things, or other weevils like we have in our alfalfa right now, or?
Not so much. I mean, the earworms don't come into field corn that big of a thing. You'll end up
just
with
our sweet corn.
Potential, a little bit of damage, but it's not enough to matter. Not like what I run into with the sweet corn problems with earworms.
Right.
So really, it's just the rootworms are your biggest thing. The other protection that comes in, and basically all GMO corn has protection for European corn borers.
Okay.
They've almost become a thing of the past. They used to bore a hole right in through the center of the stalk, and then the stalk would break over, the ear would drop, lots of bad things. But honestly, GMOs have almost eliminated that pest.
Yep. So just walk in, know that you're paying the money, get the quality stuff, get the extra stuff, and then you're never, as long as you're planting that good stuff, you're never going to have a problem. I don't
say never, but you likely won't.
Yeah, especially in deer corn, like 2 to 3 acres. I don't see big problems happening with that, because you're I don't know, lessening the odds maybe with some of that, and you're able to kind of hyper focus on that, and you're able to like check it and see if there's bugs and learn from that or whatever. But we can't stress to you enough, whether you're a farmer or a deer guy, how important that nitrogen is. And you can't really overdo it on the nitrogen, would you say? Because the pH is only going to let you use so much of it, right?
the corn will only use so much. If there's extra, it'll still be there the next year.
Yeah.
I mean, you can lose it through leaching or whatever, but there's really not such a thing as too much, and your pocketbook will allow you to not put too much on anyway.
Yeah, true that. But it is cheaper than it was last year or the year before.
It's
Year.
Almost half price of last year.
Yeah. So if there was ever a year, you guys, that you would try it, I think we're going to have, I don't know. We thought we were going to have a drought year, but we've been getting the rain. So if you're ever going to try corn this year, I would, number one, pick, a big area to do it. I would, go ahead and allocate a certain area to plant it at a certain volume, which would be, we'll get into that in a second, but you would say, I'm going to plant, let's say, these 2 acres, and then try to do it right. Go ahead and put your, we're gonna put Glide down, and then we're gonna put 2,4-D in with it, get our napalm and burn it down. That's a really good burn down for all the weeds, and try to, control those mare's tail and water hemp and things, because it's still small right now. Burn them down, and then, something that somebody can find that they're going to use as a pre-emerge. A pre-emerge is going to be very key, you guys, to growing any corn, whether it's a specialty corn or GMO corn. You're going to want some type of pre-emerge. And what is out there pre-emerge wise, except for a very easy to get dual and atrazine combination for your corn? Is there other stuff out there, Royce, that somebody could get if they were?
What I'm using as a farmer is called Acuron, and that's a combination of, I believe, 3 chemicals. I can't tell you what the exact ones are.
Yeah.
But for just a normal deer guy, dual and atrazine is a pretty simple combination. But I can't stress a pre-emerge enough, kind of like nitrogen. If you want any weed control, you absolutely have to have a pre. And that's whether you're growing corn or beans anymore. You have to have a pre. There's too many resistant weeds out there. If you don't kill them or stop them before they start, your life is not going to be easy. You need to stop them before they start.
And if you don't know what a pre-emerge is, we're here to help you. Like, you have your contact killers, which is your glyphosate and your 2,4-D. And when you have those two are just, it gets sprayed on the plant. It can get a little bit on the leaf. The leaf, as long as you don't have rain, is going to suck in that poison. It's going to go down and kill the roots within a couple hours. And then that plant is going to slowly die. Now, you don't have something that's still in the soil, keeping the other weed seeds from over 100 years of just being in the soil from germinating and coming on strong. You can kill the stuff that's out there, but you don't have anything to keep these seeds back from exploding. You're putting a seed in the ground, and then the rest of the stuff is the other seeds are still in the ground with it. So how can we take something genetically engineered that allows the corn to grow, but the other seeds to not germinate? And that's where you're going to find, if you are, related to a farmer or around a farming application service, they can come apply Acuron for you. And I have used that. I've had them come out here and spray my fields before. But if you're kind of way far back and you're kind of doing it yourself, there are some prosumer kind of models, consumer model, pre-emerge type stuff, but you're going to have to ask your local person. We're not going to go out on a limb and tell you this is what you have to use, but we do know that dual and atrazine have been used for decades with much success in pre-emerge and being able to at least keep back the weeds. Because remember, as your corn's growing, it's Roundup ready. You can spray that glyphosate on there and keep your weeds at bay. But a lot of it is just about paying attention and knowing what, kind of learning the process, right? Is there anything you have to add about that?
If you can get a co-op to come spray it for you, that's your easiest and best application.
That's number one.
But number one, if you can get them to do it, most of them don't either have time or don't want to mess around, or
with the smaller
it's a
stuff.
Remote location. But if you can do that, they'll put your nitrogen on and spray your pre all at once. And that nitrogen will generally burn down anything there too. It'll act as kind of a burn down besides. Yep. So If you can get them to do that, that's your best method.
Well, and some of
But
the
they
some
won't
of
always do that.
yeah, some of the places where, it's just like the service that I offer with the land stuff or the consulting or whatever, Walter's Ag out in Farmington, if you're in their little area, which is like, I don't know, probably about 40 miles or 30 miles, they actually have side by sides and pull behinds and things that they can do smaller acreages that they'll put the nitrogen in. I've also put a big tank on the back of my tractor, drove it on my trailer to the place, and then they put the nitrogen and the Acuron into my tank, and then I went out and sprayed my farms. And don't they have transfer tanks too sometimes in the farming world?
They absolutely do. And
Yeah.
a lot of farmers that are applying their own stuff, they just run a nurse tank to their local co-op, get it filled, and come back. So
I
they
think
absolutely do have a transfer method.
I think if we were to recommend anything to anybody out there that want to do corn, go in there, go into your co-op or your place that sells seed and fertilizer and nitrogen, liquid nitrogen and all your chemicals. Go talk to them. Their business is customers, right?
They know a lot better than what Chris and I know.
Yeah,
That is their job.
and they are there to teach you. And normally most of them are some of the nicest people. They're in that job for a reason. They're a farming culture. Go in there and have a coffee with them. They normally have freebie hats and all kinds of stuff, and they're normally really willing to answer your questions and help you. I mean,
take them a case of beer or a thing of donuts or something during their busy time of year, and that goes a long ways as well.
Yeah, because they'll probably crack a cold one after a long day of spraying for everybody.
About 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock when they're wrapping up, and you've got beer sitting there for them, that goes a long ways.
You heard it from
just a little tip there.
Yeah, you heard it from the farmer first. So I think because I talked to one of my friends today, and he was like, "Well, I'm going to go plant some corn," and I'm like, "Well, did you get the corn?" So he had bought the corn. I don't think he knew about the maturity. I also know he didn't hear about he didn't know about the nitrogen. He had just been putting down like triple 13 and other, fertilizer, but he didn't know about the specific. He didn't know about the nitrogen, right? And I said, man, listen to me. The most important thing is to put down 4 to 5 bags of 4600 nitrogen to the ground, and you have to work it in. And I'm like, besides that, you can even spray on the atrazine and the dual, and because he already burned it down, and work that into the soil. Why would you work the pre-emerge into the soil, Royce? Why wouldn't you just spray it on top?
You can spray it on top if you got a rain coming, but otherwise it's just going to lay there and not be activated.
Okay.
Like you need it in the top 1 to 2 inches because that's where your weeds start. So you need to, ideally, you work it to incorporate it in the soil, mix it in, and then that will help stop and prevent anything coming. If you get sprayed on top and you get an inch of rain that night, great. Now it worked it in, and it's laying there where it should be.
It's going to be perfect.
But
and then
you're also banking on that rain. So
yeah,
the best way to know where everything is where you want it is apply it and work it in.
Yeah, till, disc, drag, any way to break the surface really would be a good way to just get it in there. And then the other thing that he was going to do that I kind of stopped him and was like, hey, man, you really need to think about that. He was going to go ahead and drill in corn with all these new no-till drills and stuff. And I was like, whoa, wait. If that is the only thing you have and you don't have like a John Deere 7000 or some type of actual has corn meters and plant the corn at a certain depth, you're out there winging it. Like
seed placement is absolutely imperative with corn.
Because it has to be the right depth. It can't be too deep. It can't be too shallow. It's so crucial, right?
And you have to have the right placement. Corn, if you crowd it, it basically turns into a weed at that point. You want them placed individually, specifically, in order to get ideal yields. That's just the bottom line. Beans, it doesn't matter. It'll compensate for population. Corn will not. I mean, it needs to be spaced accurately. If you have a drill and that's your only option, well, I guess okay. But man, if you need to really put it in with a planner.
So that's what I was working through with him. He said, man, I've got a drill. And I said, okay, well, let's think this through. I have drills also, but I would never, unless my feet were to the fire, I would not drill in my corn. And then I started thinking back. He said, I have the same drill as you. I said, okay, well, I've got a drill. I got a Great Plains drill and it's 7.5 spacing. And I thought to myself, well, I know my outside lines don't plant very deep and they don't have very good consistency. So I said, here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to go inside the machine and you're going to have to tape off. Well, at 7.5, what would that be? So if you taped off the first one and the second one planted, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, if you own a drill, it's got all like 10 or 12, depending on how wide it is. It's got 10 or 12 on 7.5-inch centers. And I'm telling him, I'm like, hey, you want to make sure that you've got a gap. Now he doesn't need to make sure that he's 30 inches on the drill, but I do think that he needs to be 25 plus.
Correct.
Don't you think?
Correct. There's people out there testing the limits, and I know there was some 20-inch corn and this and that here and there. It's never taken off. Everybody's doing 30-inch rows on corn. That really is kind of the main. 98% of the corn you see is planted in 30-inch rows.
Yeah, when you're driving down the highway, you're seeing 30-inch row corn.
And meaning then 30 inches between the row.
Yeah, so you can walk down at 30-inch wide with a ruler is what you're, essentially that's how wide the thing. And then where the corn is dropped, they're normally anywhere between 7.5 to a sweet corn is almost like 13.5 inches apart on the seed drop.
Yeah, probably 7 and anywhere from 7 to 10 inches on field corn. For deer corn, you can get away with less population.
Yeah.
Ag corn, I guess it depends on your ground that you're on. I'm running 34,000 as my standard population. And
we're
industry standard is probably 32 to 36,000. It would almost all fall in there. There's a little above and a little below, but that's going to catch most of it.
So if you're driving in the Midwest, you're looking, the corn that you guys see planted on the side of the highway professionally by a farmer for a living is planting between 32 and 36,000 seeds per acre, correct?
Correct. Yeah. There's a little above that and a little below that depending on the quality of your soil, but that catches most of it.
And so when I'm planting deer corn, I'm still shooting for that 32,000 and 30,000 population on my deer corn at my farm. And that's just pretty standard, or?
Honestly, for deer corn, that's probably a little bit high.
Well, I knew the raccoons would take out, a percentage of it,
Yeah, I guess I forget that.
So you've got so many acres, but for me, 3 acres, I'm going to have a family of raccoons because Illinois doesn't have a season, 12 months a year. I'm going to have them eat quite a bit of my corn don't they like it like at that tassel stage when we see the bucks in it? Right.
Coons like it when it's basically like sweet corn, like in the milk stage. When they rip it off. But your deer, they'll browse it all the way through. When it's little, they pull that whorl out of the center of it, and then it's done. Mm-hmm. And deer start browsing it too. As soon as it throws silk, deer start browsing it.
Yeah. It's sometimes, you guys, that you won't see deer on water holes or creeks. You will actually see them eating this whirligig tassel thing that's in the middle. Like the whirligig is the corn's growing up out of the middle. All of a sudden the deer will come and they'll just eat them all night. And there's about 5 or 6 inches that just hold so much moisture at that end of June, July time of year where these deer are in there pulling them out one after the other, just getting not only nutrition, but they're also getting all this moisture into their bellies. And that's actually what they're living on at that time of the year, I think. And so then we're on to, the nitrogen, everything now that we talked about. Now we're on to what we're looking at for population. So how do you know offhand what comes in a bag? What is that? What is that bag?
80,000 kernels.
Okay, 80,000.
Every bag you buy Generally, I shouldn't say every, but almost all ag corn that you buy is going to be 80,000 kernels.
So when you buy your seed corn at your co-op or you order it, what'd you say, Bex, or you order
Whatever your brand is
whatever the
that you're
brand is,
buying, they're all 80,000. That's industry standard.
Hey man, if Pioneer or anybody is out there listening, go ahead and send me some bags of triple stack 100 maturity. I'll be sure to put them to test. I could sure save 350, 400 bucks this year. So if you guys are out there and you want to send some of this stuff, we'll film some content. Shameless plug there, but we don't really have a brand that we use, and we can get into that little weird stuff in a second about protein and different corn and whatever. I think corn is so hard to grow for a newbie, trying to learn the nitrogen and trying to learn the population. So again, if you can do the population at, let's say, anything over 25,000, I think you're going to be good with deer corn. Somewhere between there and 30,000 is what I would recommend.
Correct. Yeah. Somewhere in there is fine. And it also depends on your browse pressure too. Like, you have insane amount of browse pressure on your place.
Right.
I don't know if everybody has quite that much. I know I don't have near that.
Well, one of my farms does and one of my farms doesn't. And so I definitely planted, well, I did some other tricks. Like I planted those with the 6-row John Deere 7000. I planted going one direction at like 18,000. This is something I did. It's like 18,000. I planted one direction, and then I actually went back and cross threaded it and kind of went on a diagonal, because I noticed that the deer didn't want to walk through the kind of these walls. And that was the only thing that deterred the deer from a little bit from eating all of the corn last year. But it still ended up to be 30 something thousand per acre. So if you're out there and you want to try corn and you want to do your own experiment, what do you think if somebody put their corn, let's say they disked, let's just go down this rabbit hole for a second. If it was you and me and we didn't have a bunch of equipment, but we wanted to try corn, and we put the nitrogen down and we did all the stuff and we put the atrazine down and we burned down the field. Do you think if we disked a field and then we said, okay, this is 20, we split the bag into 3, sections, and we had 20 something thousand seeds. Do you think that we could put those 20 something thousand seeds on an acre and then lightly disc it in again and be able to get some corn to grow? Because
it'll grow, but it won't be good.
It won't be beautiful.
Again, like a drill, that'd be your absolute last resort if you have no other options. It'd be better than nothing, but it'd be about like nothing.
Yeah. I always wondered that.
But that's a farmer in me too. I mean, but that's not a great option.
Hey, listen, I have a hat and a shirt that I'm going to have made that just says, if you're a deer guy, don't listen to a farmer. Like we joke about this all the time. These guys, remember, these guys are making their living. Roy's one of my best friends in the world. I talk to him every day. He's torn because one side he makes money for his family, and the other side is he really likes his deer and he likes to learn and grow different things or whatever. And so we have these discussions where a lot of times he will cringe because the farmer in him, has to have everything so perfect. And for me, I'm like, man, this is all I got. I'm not going to disc it up first. I'm just going to no-till it. And he's like, man, I would work it. And there's a lot of shortcuts that you have to take sometimes as a deer hunter. We're not saying don't try it, but do you think it would be better for them to go on the low side if they were going to try a poor man's disking in a good seed with good nitrogen? Do you think they should go 20,000, or do you think you should go 30,000?
I would go less. I would try and do that 20 or 25 or something like that if that's what you had to do. Like if that again is your only option.
Yeah, get the good seed, get the good nitrogen, get the good pre-emerge. But if you didn't have a planter and you couldn't get one and you wanted to try an experiment, let us know. Do 20,000 to 25,000 and you could disc it once, get that dirt worked up, and you could probably slowly disc it again and probably cul-de-pack it. And I would love to see what that looks like. It's not going to be fun to walk through, but I'll bet you the deer, I guess if somebody did that and the corn took root and it grew good, Royce, it's all going to be in that nitrogen producing that big ear, right?
Correct. You'd rather have less than more in that situation, because more it's going to be just like volunteer corn. When you have volunteer corn, you don't have much. So
well, let's talk
the
about.
The farmer in me is cringing at the idea of this. You can't see my face right now, but I am cringing.
Yeah. No, I really think that I think that I've gotten spoiled by, being far enough in my land world where I own a 4-row unicorn 30-inch, John Deere 7000 I pull with my tractor, and I love planting corn for the same reasons that you're a farmer, which is the precision of it. But why? Let's go on to this butt where it's like, if I can still grow a big ear, I would call that a success, because I think what people probably don't understand, I know I didn't understand, is that just growing a corn stalk that has a 3-inch ear on it, I wouldn't call that a success. Correct?
I would call that a failure.
I would call it a failure too. If I'm not growing maybe a less population, but if I'm not growing a big, beautiful ear of corn, I wouldn't call it a success.
Yep, absolutely. If it's not, again though, to me, I'm looking for 34,000 perfect ears is what I would ideally like.
Royce right now is on the tractor. Did you hit something, or what, are you checking something?
If you can't hear me good, I had to get out to put seed in.
Oh, see, we're talking to him, doing the thing. So this is bona fide guarantee. He's got one of these little headsets, like a trucker little headset. I picture him being like Garth Brooks. So if we hear him rattling around, that's what he's doing, is filling seed right now with us. Well, I just appreciate him doing this. I just wanted to add a new dynamic, Ask a Farmer, where I got my phone here. And, I just think it's the most, everything that we've talked about is about really big ears, really, really big ears of corn. And that's your success. And having corn for the deer to eat. So, I think it's just a success, and to be able to grow them. And I just say we let Farmer Royce do his farmer stuff. And hey man, we appreciate you. We'll let you get back to farming.
All righty, sounds good.
Hey, we appreciate you. I hope everything goes good and you don't get rained on until you're done.
Yeah, fingers crossed, man. We need some weather. That's been tough this year.
All right. Well, happy farming. I'm going to close out this show. I appreciate you.
Take her easy, man. Have a good
All right,
one.
bud. Bye. So that is pretty cool. That's a whole new dynamic of what we've been doing. Being able to talk to people on the phone like that. One of my best friends, Royce, shout out to him. His 2 boys and his wife, they're some of my best friends in the world. And we have some of the greatest conversations. One thing that we've discussed a million times is what that success looked like, whether you're just a guy with a disc, even a 4-wheeler and a hand spreader, or to have a John Deere 7000, or to have Marcus Wagner make you on 15-inch rows a planter. If you have a 35 or 50 horse tractor, the thing that I would recommend out of everything out there is a Food Plot Kevin 15-inch 3-row John Deere specialized custom planter. And shout out to Food Plot Kevin Thier. Marcus Wagner is making my clients a special order, 3 15-inch row inside the tire units, John Deere planting units that are perfect for planting corn on 30-inch rows. When you get rid of the middle planter, you can plant them at 30-inch rows. Kevin has experimented with planting radishes and switchgrass and corn and beans, and you can plant everything with this one planter. So shout out to Marcus Wagner, and he is in Wisconsin or Northern Illinois, and he will make you all of these products. Look up Wagner Implements, and he has been making these 15-inch row, like picture this 15-inch row. So not a drill that's on 7s, but 15-inch row. And you can get from Shoops, SHOUPS, Shoops. That's where I order all my planter parts. You can order all these little cups and things, and you can plant your radishes, and you can plant your sorghum, and you can plant your beans and corn. That is definitely, if I'm recommending anything to anybody to go spend $7,000 on some type of brand new planter, that's the one. I think the no-till drills are, man, $14,000 to $17,000. If you're wanting something to get precise and get into food plotting, go ahead and get a hold of me. Email me at golandlife.com. Check out golandlife.com. Message me on Facebook and Instagram at Chris Brackett's Game Changers. But if you've learned anything today, it's about how corn is precisely planted and all the things that go into it. That is not here to scare you. That is actually something that should be able to be calming to you, that there are people and places that will be willing to help. Again, it might be repetitive, but burn everything down the field down by spraying it with, like a 25-gallon sprayer on a 4-wheeler with glyphosate, 2,4-D, and then you can spray atrazine and dual with it in the same tank on the ground, and then work it with a disc, and then go ahead and plant your corn into that. But I skipped that step where you have to put all the nitrogen down. And 4600 nitrogen is these white pellets of urea. And if you were just to like even spread that everywhere and then work that into the ground when you dragged it or cultipacked it, that'll work just fine. So I know making corn grow and planting it precise was one of the greatest things that I ever accomplished. I did it with sweet corn and I did it with regular corn, and it was just so cool to see it come up. So ask your local farmer. He probably has a smaller planter somewhere in the weeds there at his place, and ask your buddies. But if you can find a John Deere 7000 4-row planter that on hydraulics, or I can recommend, if you're going to have to do 3-point, you got a smaller tractor, get a 2-row planter on 30 inches, 2-row. Make sure you're not using a 3-row that's trying to plant in the compacted soil behind your tractor in those wheels. And don't be arrogant about it, because corn is fussy. Corn is hard to grow. It just really is. So if you have any questions, reach out. You can always schedule an online consult online, where we will talk in these specifics, and I can help you get to the place that you need to get to learn more about becoming a better food plotter, becoming a better land steward. If you need a consult, boots on the ground, you need to teach you this stuff, you can go to golandlife.com and see everything on there. You can see these podcasts on there. You can see all of our partners, and you can even go to whitetaillandlife.com and schedule an online consult where I can sit right here in my office. I can teach you everything by the hour, and we book our special time for that. I hope you guys learned a bunch. I just want to talk to you about a couple partners of ours, Lowdown Viewers. Lowdownviewers.com out of Wisconsin. This is just a great product. It is something that I carry with me all the time right here in its handy dandy little folder notebook. This is my tablet that is the Lowdown viewer. And this is HD and 4K and a 9-inch screen. And right here on the sides, if you guys are listening, I'm showing the sides here. Got an SD card that you put in as your save card. This is where you put in 100 and something gig, 128 gig, and then you can put in this little 16 gig, and I can be out in the field and pull that trail camera. I can put it in here, and I can simply turn it on and hit a button, and it will download all those pictures from that SD card. It's an SD reader, and that SD reader just goes right into the SD card. That's my main hard drive. And that's it. I just throw it on my four-wheeler, I throw it on my side-by-side, and the lowdown. Check out lowdownviewers.com. This bad boy, I mean, it speaks for itself. It's a little game changer. I just love it. I just love having it. I love being able to show my friends and look at SD cards while I'm driving and traveling across the country, whether my buddies are driving or wherever we're going or whatever we're doing. If I'm on a land console, it's in my backpack, it's in my truck. And then inevitably when we're running around out there in the field, we come across the trail camera and they're like, oh, I forgot this was here. And they pull it. And a lot of people are using cell cams just like myself, but I still use non-cell cam trail cameras. And this is very crucial to that because I always forget to bring a little card. And even with cell cams, as they're transmitting that picture, I've got my pictures on multi-burst. So they're still taking pictures while that one's sending. And this allows me to go back and recheck and download while I'm walking in the field or going in hunting. I can pop it in there and hit a button and download it to the larger SD chip. So that's my save chip. So this is Lowdown, lowdownviewer.com. And then don't forget that one of my favorite things in the world is planting food plots, and white gold is the freshest seed that I've ever found out of Michigan. Johnson Elevators. It's been a game changer for me, man, especially that Gold Strike with that Clover Rush package. Some of the most incredible, as big as the palm of my hand, lush clover fields. Each piece of clover is as big as the palm of my hand. Big white clover, healthy, fresh seed shipped straight to your door. Check them out. They're out of Clare, Michigan. That's what whitegolddeerfeed.com, whitegolddeerfeed.com. And I have switchgrass right here. This is the one that you're going to want to get. We still got time to put this in. I will be planting this right here. My personal switchgrass that I use, I had White Gold make. This has got Cave-in Rock switchgrass, Big Rock, and Tecumseh switchgrass all in here. One bag, 6 pounds of the Fort Knox switchgrass from White Gold. This will plant 1 acre. So check it out. If you're looking to add some thermal cover and some borders and stuff like that, look no further. We got it. At whitegolddeerfeed.com. Check them out, or just go to golandlife.com. We have links to all of this stuff. And man, what a blessing to be able to talk about one specific subject with corn. Ask a farmer, deer corn. I mean, that is as good as it gets. So burn it down, nitrogen in the ground, work the soil, put the corn in at 25 to 30,000 seeds per acre and get them planted correctly. And you're going to have an incredible corn crop as long as you're getting the rain. But if you do it right and you have the nitrogen, man, the difference between having big ears and having a lot of food and then just kind of, doing it, just doing it kind of half-assed and just being able to get some corn stalks to grow. And don't be planting soybeans with your corn. If you're planting corn, just plant corn. If you're planting soybeans, just plant soybeans. Do it correctly. And if you're out there and you're wondering about the things like NutriCrave corn, and you're worrying about the protein and the ingestibility and whatever corn, here's what I got to tell you. There are corn varieties out there that you can order online, and you can order that have higher protein counts that are still GMO. And do the deer eat GMO corn? Absolutely. Do they eat organic corn more? Absolutely. Me, I'm trying to keep my deer from eating my corn until all the other corn is picked, and now I have the only corn standing. And that's my goal. My goal is not to plant some highly organic, hard to grow, non-GMO corn that is supposed to be super attractive to whitetails and That's not what I'm trying to do. Corn is hard enough to grow. Just because somebody is offering some fancy dancy, super duper deer corn does not mean you need to listen to the garbage. It does not mean you need to listen to that and buy that. Become an expert at being a woodsman and being able to plant corn correctly. And then if you want to mess around with that one day, then go ahead. But unless you're planting it correctly, using, being able to have the pre-emerges on there, being able to control the weeds and make a good crop. I believe somebody that's making that kind of corn and playing at that level, and I think he's insulting a lot of people that are listening with, what he's doing. And I just don't agree with it. I just say, hey, let's start simple, be simple, just grow some really good corn, grow some really good looking corn, grow some tonnage, and let's have that tonnage for those deer to eat them, survive over the winter, attract them, have great hunts. And let's just put it into our land. Let's just put it into figuring things out. Don't get fancy with it. Some people are out there insulting you with all this specialty product. That's just not the direction that most of us want to just be successful with what we're doing. Things were made easier by making GMO corn. Things were made easier by being able to control the weeds. Once you master them, then maybe graduate to, super fancy stuff. That's my 2 cents. It's okay. It's America. And I hope I helped some of you. I hope I helped some of you. This is Land Life. We really appreciate you being here. And I thank you. This is episode, I think it's episode 26. Yeah, I think so. 26, 27. I don't really know. Either way, if I messed up on what episode it is, doesn't matter. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you very much. And we'll keep busting these out and we'll keep giving information, having fun guests. Thanks, y'all.